Who's your emergency contact? Who should we notify in the case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I've spent the last 2+ decades of my life. We're getting towards the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020. And as you guys know out here, they put the nation on lockdown. Well, while they put the nation on lockdown, we also got put on lockdown out there in a penitentiary. So when they put us on this national lockdown because of the sickness that was spreading around the world, we started getting into a rotation. In the beginning, they weren't sure exactly what it was or how it was going to affect us. Like every morning I'd wake up and watch the news, and CNN had a ticker of all the bodies that was dropping, due to the sickness that was spreading around the world. So they came in and they said, they announced, they said, that our counselor, he got up in the unit, he said, the sickness is here. It's in Florence. And a lot of people, they didn't know what to expect. A lot of people panicked because of all the shit craziness that we were watching on the news. You're watching New York City having all the white tents put up and all the body counts. And then you see the news that was in Italy with all that shit, with truckloads of bodies being piled in and taken over to be cremated and stuff. It's my whole life, and I'm sure everybody else that's been alive, I don't think we've ever experienced or witnessed anything like that before. So the thing was unknown to us, unknown to me, and sometimes I felt like it was the end of the world. Like just the way they showed the news, the empty streets and the bodies piling up, it was chaotic. So when they had us put us on lockdown, they split the unit up into 2 sections, the top section and the bottom section. And they were getting let us out each part, for 2 hours a day, in the beginning, because it wasn't really widespread. They had like a couple of cases that was in the kitchen. And, the only way we get sick in there is if the staff comes in and brings it in and gets somebody sick. And then we're all confined in small spaces. So if somebody coughs, they're automatically gonna get sick. So the first incident that came into Florence was in the kitchen. And no doubt that it came through a staff. So a lot of those kitchen workers got sick. So they shut down the whole penitentiary. It wasn't quite in our block yet because they were just doing it, according to the level of illness in each block. And at this time, we didn't have any cases in our block. So while other units, were locked down and only be able to come out for 30 minutes at a time, ours, they were letting us out for 2 hours at a time because it hasn't really hit our block yet. And they split, the tier in half, the top tier and the bottom tier. Now also understand that in Florence, we had 4 phones. There's 32 cells on the bottom, 32 cells up top, 64 cells. Each of those cells has 2 people in them. So what is that? 128 people. And you only let half the tier out at a time. So it's 64 people out at a time. But you got 4 phones that these people are trying to use within the 2 hours that we're out on the day room. So it's obvious, as soon as they open up the door, everybody's rushing to the phone and getting in line, But you got dudes in there that don't really, it's not that they don't understand, but they're not courteous. They're not saying, hey, I'm gonna get in one line and use the phone one time, because each phone call is 15 minutes. So you got 4 phones, 4 calls within an hour. So you get 8 calls off of each phone. 8 times 4 is 32. So out of 64 people, 32 calls can be made within that 2 hours that we were out. You have to use the email, the phone, and showers all within that 2 hours because that's all you were coming out for that day. So every time the door opens, everybody's rushing to the phone, getting in line. But you had a couple of dudes that would go over there and be like, oh, I'm in line over here, I'm in line over there, so on and so forth, And obviously, that's going to lead to a wreck because everybody's trying to call their family, especially with the news going on every day about, oh, it's in this city, now it's in this state, now so on and so forth, just spreading all throughout the United States and around the world. You being locked up, only being able to watch the news, your imagination plays on you. Especially you're watching CNN and they got a ticker on the news every morning on the body count going up every day. It went up to like 50,000, then 100,000, and then 300,000-400,000. So people were, concerned, especially because we can't do anything to help our family. We hear about all the runs on the stores, all the cleaning supplies, toilet papers and everything, all the shelves being emptied. This right before they put, everybody on a national lockdown and had locked down the whole United States. So when we come out, they had this dude from Texas, light-skinned dude. My cellie K was at another spot with him. And, the reason we talked about him is because, when he came out, he had all his jumps, all his khakis and sweat, all tailored to be like skinny jeans and stuff. And he's one of them, I guess, one of the pretty boys that's, that he just looks out of place in the penitentiary. But there's plenty of them like that, that come out with their khakis and stuff all greased up and stuff just to sit in the block or go out on the yard. But with this dude, when my cellie was telling me about him, he was like, yeah, the dude knows he's heavy into that mixed martial arts stuff. And he was a good size. And he's only there for like a couple weeks before this incident happened. I never had any conversation with him other than being introduced to him or whatever. I think he was from Texas, or at the very least, he was riding the South car. But, the first couple times we come out for our 2 hours, people are complaining about how the phone rotation is going. And they're politicking about it, trying to set up, how they're supposed to do the phone calls and stuff like that. And, at the same time, while they let our bottom tier out, they have the orderlies out, And, if they let us out for 2 hours, there's like an hour break period before they let the next tier out so that the orderlies can clean up the phone, can clean up the showers and the tables and practically spray the whole unit down. So they're like, hey, if you're an orderly coming out, don't use the phone while our tier is out because we only got 2 hours for 60 of us to get on the phone. So be courteous. And when we come out, get off the phone and just let, whoever's out for that tier to use the phone, which is reasonable, which is respectful, and really just common sense, right? With a dude that I was talking about, he's from Texas. And while they're having that conversation down there, he was like, man, I don't care. I get in line, I'm going to use the phone. If somebody gets in line, I don't care how many times they get in line and how many times they use the phone. If they're in line, they use the phone. I'm going to respect it or whatever. Like, he wasn't really, making an issue of it or whatever because, but he's one of them dudes that would get in line over here and get in line over there. So for me, I get in line. When I come out, I get in line. I use the phone one time and move on my way because, I just try to call my wife. That's the only person that I really need to speak to, on a daily basis or whenever I get access to the phone. But it's not that serious. Sometimes when I come out, I see that the line is too long and I'm not going to make it on the phone. I go do the shower or I'll go email my wife, So while they're over there, like I said, I live on the bottom floor between about 113 and like I said, in the unit on the bottom tier in Florence, they got them big ass cement blocks that go the length of the tier. It breaks up where the pole's at or whatever, but everybody that's waiting on the phone, they just sit in a row on those blocks. So while these guys over there by this, and the thing is, they have 4 phones, like everywhere I've been, they've always had 5 or 6 phones in the unit. But in Florence, they had 2 poles with a phone on each side of it. So 2 phones for the whole block. So every night, every evening, after 7 o'clock, the phone line gets, even when the unit is running regularly, the phone line, wraps around the unit, So I'm sitting there, I'm waiting for my turn on the phone. I'm after so-and-so, and they got these dudes, they're politicking about the phone. Well, it's going to be a minute before I can get on the phone. Counting all the people's in front of me, it's going to be about an hour before I get on the phone. So I take my ass to the email and get on the email, and I'm sitting there on the email. But, I know just by, the volume of their tone and their voice that there's friction over there over the telephone. So I'm sitting there doing my email, and I see, the Texas dude get up to use the phone, but there was this little DC dude with dreads. He's talking to him. I can't hear what they are because the unit is noisy, but the DC dude swings on him. Bing. But when he swings on him, the Texas dude pieces him up. Pop, pop. And when he does that, it was just like, a pack of hyenas. But they had dudes that were from Baltimore and Virginia that they all ride with the DMV. There's a coalition. The DMV is DC, Maryland, and Virginia. For the most part, unless they're on a yard where there's so many of them, then, they break up into their own region, and even the DCs break up into their own neighborhoods. But when they're, on a yard where there's not that much, then they all have the DMV coalition. But in Florence, there was a lot of dudes from DC and a lot of dudes from Virginia. It wasn't so emphasized because our unit was, our yard was split, meaning you only wreck with your block. There was no really interaction with the other blocks unless you're going to education or you're going to child. Even when you go to rec, you're in different rec cages. But if the compound was wide open, then you would be able to, notice the numbers of different individuals and different cars and stuff. So the dude pieced that DC dude up, and like 4 or 5 DC dudes and Virginia dudes and Baltimore dudes started rushing him. Like from the phone to where I'm at, it's about 20 yards. And where I'm at is right in front of the doors where the stairs at. So they started jumping him. But, dude, from what my cellie told me, knew how to fight. And what I was able to see and witness during that time, he knew how to fight. He wasn't just, swinging. He had his stance on, and he was just chucking them, pop, 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 just keeping them off of him. And they had this little dude. He's from Baltimore. He went over there and rushed him and tried to wrestle him and body slam him, but dude threw him off. and then 2 other DC dudes rush him. Me, when this stuff is going on, I put my head up, I look, I say, okay, it's blacks, and it's the South and the DC. So it don't got nothing to do with me, it don't got nothing to do with the natives. So I'm just over there trying to text my wife as fast as I can because I know we're gonna get locked down. So I'm still on the computer while a lot of dudes are panicking, running into their cell, trying to get away from the scene. I'm just like, sitting down there, keeping my head low just in case, when the COs come out and they start macing people, I don't want to catch a face full because they start fighting from the phone and move all the way to where, they were just only like 5 yards from me under the stairs. Now, the dudes from the South, there's plenty of dudes in the block that are from Florida and from Texas. And dude got behind the steps and put his back to the wall, and the DC dudes are coming at him, 3 or 4 of them. Because I guess he already had laid down a couple of them already. Not like knocked them out, but just, knocked them down or whatever. While this dude's back to the wall and these DC dudes are rushing him, he's yelling out, it's like, hey, they're jumping me, hey, they're jumping me. So I'm waiting to see if the South, these dudes that are running South car, these Texas dude, Florida dude, Memphis dude, are gonna come to his aid. And one of the dudes that he's yelling for is a dude named Pro. He's from Texas, big old youngster, and he kind of had like the unit for the Texas dude. I don't know why, maybe because he was big, but he's brand new to the system, and again, the dude's down there yelling for his homies like, hey, I'm getting jumped, hey, I'm getting jumped. So I'm looking up, because I know he's calling the dude specifically, hey, Pro, I'm getting jumped, hey, Pro, I'm getting jumped. And the dude's in his cell. I don't see his cell door open. I don't see no other Texas dude or Memphis dude or Florida dudes. These dudes that's supposed to be on the South car coming to their homies' assistance, to aid and assist. And I don't know these dudes personally to make a judgment on them, but really, like, that's your homie getting jumped, by these DC dudes. But for the Texas dude, he was holding his own. Like, they never dropped him. He had his back to the wall. He kept his hands moving. And they had this one Puerto Rican dude that was from Baltimore, but he didn't run Puerto Rican. He ran, with the Baltimore DC car. And he was cool. Like, we always chop it up or whatever. He's a little funny. But towards the end, I'm on the computer trying to finish typing, sending a message to my wife. And I see the dude running towards the scene to aid and assist the other DC dudes. And I'm watching him, and because the dude's under the stairs, his back's to the wall, keeping his hands moving. And the Puerto Rican dude ran over there, jumps over the cement block that I tell you about that goes to, around the block, around the unit. But I'm kind of ducking, so the computer screen is right here. When I'm sitting down, the computer screen is about right here. But I'm kind of ducking, keeping my heads up. Just, I'm not trying to get hit with any, flying objects if they start throwing stuff or if the COs come out and start macing or whatever. But I see dude shooting out across the unit, and he runs over there, and I see him jump over the green thing to go, aid and assist the DC dudes. And then he disappeared. I'm like, what the fuck? Where did he go, right? So I finished typing my shit. I go, and I see him, he's laid out on the floor. Like, when he jumped, I guess the dude caught him. Bop! And he fucking fell off, hit his back on that slab, and they just laid down on the floor, right? But he was the homie. Like I fought with it tough, and for me, it's just, it doesn't matter if you know how to fight. It doesn't matter if you're the toughest dude or not, man. If you got the heart and you do your part, trying to aid and assist, regardless of how bad you fail in the attempt, you get a credit. You get credit for going. You know what I mean? But so the CEOs come out. When the shit's going on, the CEOs finally come out. A lot of these CEOs that work in the block, they're not so quick to come out and break up stuff because, themselves, they're hesitant and scared because they don't know what they're getting into, and they don't want them, and I know they don't want to get hurt, so they're always like, just watching it for a minute just to make sure there's no knives coming out and stuff before they run out there and start macing everybody. So they ran out, they hit the deuces, they ran out there, start yelling for everybody to lock down, start spraying the dude, spraying the unit. My ass is still on the computer trying to type away, and I don't know if she still got a copy of it. I'm like, yeah, I think we're gonna get locked down. I'll see you in a few days. And I grabbed my MP3 player off the charger and head to my room. But, again, like, every little thing in the USP can blow up. And that incident, for me, I believe it should have been worse than what it was because the dudes from the South should have came and aided in the system. That's their homie, getting jumped. Like if it was one-on-one, I understand, hey, dog, let them two handle it. But you're getting jumped by 4 or 5 DC dudes, and you belong to a car. Texas, Florida, Memphis, these dudes, they're supposed to ride together. But that day in particular, and I'm not taking away from everybody that's from the South, because I've been on yards where the South went hard. When I was in Lompoc, the Florida dudes and the Texas dude, they went and stabbed each other up for a whole week. You know what I mean? Both sides went hard. But as I progressed through the years, the level of inmates, the mentality of them, the caliber of inmates that's come into the system now, it's been diluted. They're not what it used to be. And it was disappointing. When you see shit like that, you start losing respect for these dudes because that's your homeboy, regardless if there's more DC dudes in the block than you, regardless if these DC dudes are dangerous or big or whatever. Like, you have an obligation because you're part of a collective. And when you don't do your part, when you appear to drop your nuts, then, for me, and I'm sure everybody else that think like me, you lose respect. And after that, like, when you don't have my respect, homie, you can't never say a fucking thing about anything because I don't respect you. So I'm not trying to hear it. Anyway, welcome to the USP.